All right, welcome to Witchpolice Radio. The funny thing about this, before we even start this podcast, I like to put the question out there a lot, asking listeners to the show what bands they want to hear on the show. And the guests on this podcast have come up before. Someone's recommended you and said, you should talk to these guys. And I think that I made some joke about not understanding what the name meant. So I said, like, no, I can't have these guys on the show because they don't understand what the hell the band name means. So maybe that's a great place to start. Is before we do that though, if the three of you can introduce yourselves and maybe say what instrument you play in the band, and then we can go from there. But I think the band name is a good starting point because I've been trying to figure out what it means. I have no idea.
Mac, do you want to go first? We'll go down the line.
Okay, yeah. I guess we're just introducing ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Mac. I play the guitar and I sing in the band. And that's pretty much
cool.
Pretty much all I do.
Yeah. I'm Connor and I play the drums.
Okay.
My name's Dylan and I yell.
And is this the whole band? Is it just the three of you?
We also have a bassist.
Okay.
But he's dead.
He's dead. Okay. All right.
Yeah, he died.
That's why you didn't be there.
Yeah.
Right. It's a good excuse. If you're gonna have an excuse not to show up, being dead is a pretty good one.
Yeah. We didn't kill him.
Well, that's good at least, right? So what the hell is a Prinport? Because when I saw that, I was like, is this? Well, first of all, you just explain it because I don't even know what I think it was.
We give him the real answer or the new answer?
Oh, you have two.
That's right.
Okay, we have a real answer, but
Okay.
the real answer, the new normal real answer is that on a a nutsack, there's like the seam that goes down the middle where it looks like your balls is like two balls put together.
Yeah.
That's a Prinport, is the seam in the
seam that
nutsack.
holds a man together.
Yeah.
Is that the technical word for it? Is like that actually what it's called, or is it what you call it?
That is now.
Yeah.
We're talking to Webster from Webster's dictionary.
Yeah, Mr. Webster.
Trying to get it put in there, yeah.
What's the other definition?
It's just really lame. Like I just took two names and put them together because I just wanted to make something that like nobody had.
Right.
Yeah. Apparently, when you look up Prinport on YouTube and you go far enough, you could just find videos of like Romanian people filming harbors because apparently our means through the harbor in Romanian.
Yeah.
And I thought I was being really original.
But yeah, apparently
the Romanian.
apparently it means
Lost
through
it
the
on the
harbor
way,
in
man.
Romanian, yeah.
That's
So-
kind of cool though. That's actually not a bad. You could make that your origin story. That one of you is Romanian and that this is like some cultural thing.
Yeah, we met in the harbor in Romania.
Yeah.
We were all doing imports at the
crashed.
time.
Yeah.
This is actually our fourth member.
Oh, this is Tom.
Yeah,
This
this
is
is
actually
Tom.
Tom.
Say hello.
Yeah, we were kidding.
Say hello.
This is the bass player.
This is our bass player.
Right on. So, how long has this been an actual project? Because I feel like I've seen the name a number of times before, just at like show listings and things like that. But by the same token, the last 2 years have been a blur, and time runs together, and it's kind of difficult to figure out, what has happened when. So, how long have you guys been a unit?
Me and Tom kind of started this project in like 2012.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
But we didn't really get anything going until about 2016, and we really got going when Connor joined the band.
Okay.
That was
We've
like
been,
2016.
That was 2016.
2016, yeah.
And we've kind of been going full force ever since.
Yeah.
So what? That's a long time to be around. I mean, going back to the early part, that's almost a decade right now, right? Since this has sort of been at least an idea. Why did it take so long to go from an idea to actually becoming like a fully realized project? Was it just you needed the right people in place?
It's a great question, Mac.
We didn't have any members. So it was literally just me and Tom, and like we are complete introverts and
Right.
like don't know anyone, and it's like we didn't know anybody in the scene or anything like that. Like we only knew like bigger bands, so it was hard to like communicate with anybody. I
Yeah.
guess. Like
But you need that in, right? You have to find a way to sort of get into the scene for sure.
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, that maybe leads me to another question though. Is I always try to figure out where to sort of place people mentally in the local music scene. So like what kind of bands were you guys listening to when you first started going to shows that maybe whether they influenced this band directly or not?
Like locally?
Yeah, locally, yeah.
Oh man. So when I first joined the band, I didn't even know there was a local scene.
Okay.
I guess I guess sheltered might be the word, but in high school I had no inklings or ideas that there was even that. I just knew that like I wanted to play music and I couldn't find anybody that wanted to play the kind of music I did. The only
Okay.
other local bands I knew through high school were like indie bands, nothing heavier. And Prinport was the first band I found that actually played heavy music in the city. It turns out though, I was listening to Escape from Echo Base for quite a while before I knew they were from Winnipeg.
Okay.
So I guess that would be a real answer. And then probably Dylan has the biggest repertoire. He's an OG.
The first hard band I remember going to see and like getting like attached to and like talking to the members, actually Forever I. So that's a pretty big throwback. And then that's probably like the first kind of like band getting into the scene, realizing like, man, anyone can do this. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, there's always that moment, right? When you're starting a band that you realize that like, oh, these people doing it are not on some special level. They're just guys in the city playing music, right? Yeah.
Been going to see other bands forever and like just like I don't know, the reputation they have, they're a little distant, and then like going to local shows is way different than going to see like a touring band.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sick of talking about the pandemic, and I almost don't want to ask about it anymore. But I feel like
pandemic.
The thing that's happening, the unpleasantness that's happening, and it just seems like this past 2 years almost has affected everyone, especially creative people, a little differently. What has it been like for you guys? Have you been able to until recently actually get together and rehearse or anything like that?
So we had the blessing of all living together for the last 2 years. So really day to day, nothing in terms of us getting together changed at all. The only thing that was different is that we couldn't play shows, but in a way that was almost a bit of a blessing too. It gave us time to like take a step back and focus on some things that were maybe lacking. Like it gave us a lot of time to start working on material, start figuring out like dynamics in terms of roles of what works for each other in the band. Like who is best at what in terms of like managing the band and getting things going on like a business level. Yeah. And then what was nice about that is like we could keep practicing and we kept practicing. So when shows were ready to go, we were ready to go. So that was definitely something that I felt very lucky with, that a lot of other bands didn't really have the opportunity to do. So Prin Palace forever, man. Like,
over that time when you had the opportunity to, I'm sure you're practicing a lot, probably just being in each other's company all the time. Did anything change about your sound? Like has it developed in any kind of notable way over this time where you've been sort of locked down with nothing to do except for play music?
Absolutely. I think we've been kind of working at a new album. We've been recording it just over the year, and we were finishing up writing in 2020.
Okay. And
I would say it's quite drastically different from anything we've released before. It's definitely some of the lightest material we've ever made and some of the heaviest material as well.
Within the same song or like in
Absolutely. Yeah.
So something that we've always been interested in and have really like stepped into even more on a lot of this new material is what Dylan likes to call the Prinport left turn. Okay. Which is we'll establish the song as sounding like one thing and then immediately on a dime just switch to something else. So that's something we were trying to do a lot more on this stuff, and we'll probably continue to do a lot more. We like a lot of bands that kind of don't stick to one thing, and we as individuals get kind of bored. Like if we were just playing the same kind of songs, we would get bored of it. So we'd like to be able to keep things interesting even for ourselves, and it kind of pushes us to be a little bit outside of our comfort zone in some different parts of songs and stuff.
Well, even listening to the album that you have up on Bandcamp there, like the one from a couple of years ago, that does happen. I can definitely hear that the shifts happening kind of tonally, and it goes from I wouldn't say like heavy to light, but I mean, especially with the vocals, it'll go from some really really harsh vocals to then this kind of like a sweeter sounding part, and then back to heavy and all over the place. So I guess with all of that in mind, where do you fit yourselves within like the really obnoxiously huge continuity of heavy music? Like, do you have a really easy Cole's Notes way of defining your sound? I saw post-hardcore being used on some of your social media stuff, and that almost to me is one of those genres that doesn't really mean a lot because it can encompass so many different types of bands. Like, what do you call it though? If someone says, oh, hey, I heard you're in a band, what kind of music do you play? Do you have like an easy go-to for that?
I mean, my answer from that kind of depends on the other person's musical background. Like when people at workplaces and stuff ask me, I just say we're a good old rock and roll band. But if I know someone's a little bit more in touch with things, I usually say progressive post-hardcore. Because we do have a lot of roots in a lot of like very classic post-hardcore and bands such as that. And with it being such a widespread sound in that genre, I think we can fit into a lot of parts of that. But then with the genre bending and the kind of other stuff that we like to implement, it kind of gives us a bit of a progressive edge as well. So that's usually my go-to answer. Or Tool for Ravioli Core.
I like that. I saw that on your thing. Yeah, it's a good, very good. It's unique anyway, right? I mean, I don't think there's any other ravioli core bands in the city.
Exactly.
What are some? Are there like well-known bands that the three of you or the four of you all sort of agree on as far as influences, or are you all over the map?
We're pretty all over the map. I would say, I think one that's like pretty consistent with all of us, which is interesting because we don't sound anything like them, is the Contortionist.
Okay.
I would say we all really love that band, but we don't write anything that sounds like that at all. We have lots of different agreements in between the members, but there aren't a lot of bands that actually spread across the whole four. Like there's lots of bands that me and Mac enjoy together, but Dylan doesn't like, and then there's bands that me and Dylan like that say Tom doesn't like, and vice versa and all around. But I think that adds an interesting dynamic to our writing because we're all bringing in such different things.
Well, that's kind of what I was getting at with that too. Is I mean, do you hear that in songs that like if one member has contributed a certain part to a song, can you pick out, oh, that must be, subconsciously coming from this interest or the other one, or does it all sort of? I mean, I imagine for you guys especially, you could probably hear that in there, right?
I would say definitely like. You can definitely tell what a Mac riff is versus a Connor riff.
Right.
Because like me writing riffs, it's very just like down-tuned, chuggy breakdown stuff. And Mac writes like virtuoso noodles, like linguine style. Ravioli.
Right. Ravioli. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. We do be noodling.
So then where do you fit in? I mean, I know the local scene is just finally back up and running after all this time off, but where do you kind of fit yourselves in within the local music scene? Because there's a heavy scene, but that's broken down into so many subgenres. And a lot of those bands obviously all play together and stuff. You could have a hardcore band with a metal band with a, whatever. But I mean, there's so many little breakdowns of subgenres of subgenres of subgenres. Do you kind of have you found a place in the time that you've been a band where you sort of feel like you fit locally?
Honestly, no.
I think just recently.
We have bands that we think we definitely sonically, at least a lot of our parts fit in with pretty well.
Yeah.
But something that's nice with the variety in our sound is we have the ability to play with lots of different kinds of stuff. Because I would say we fit in anywhere from like sitcom to murder capital. Like, and in the beginning, we were playing shows with anybody. Like we played a lot of death metal bills. Like we've been playing with hardcore bands for a long time, punk bands. And we've always found that, at least I personally found that we've been able to like hold our own in all of those different genres. And something we're planning to do with the future is to keep spreading that out and to get into different scenes and more scenes. Because I find just with where our sound sits, we kind of have our own little unique niche in a way, like, because we aren't anything that's just cut and dry. We're not just straight up post-hardcore. We're not straight up metalcore. We're not straight up Latin. We're nothing small boxed. So, which is definitely was difficult in the beginning because I found that we and everyone else kind of had a hard time placing us. But I think now that people sort of have gotten to know who we are, like we don't need to get placed into a box. Our box is just Prinport.
Right. That's a good problem to have, right? The fact that it's nebulous enough that people can't exactly place it.
Yeah, it makes marketing a nightmare sometimes, but it is what it is.
Well, how has that side of things been for you guys? Because I mean, that's sort of in the era we're in now. You can't just be creative. You can't just make music. You have to do all this other shit too. You have to be your own, managers, publicists, social media people, all that other stuff that, even 20 years ago, that wasn't necessarily as big a deal for bands to do themselves because the internet and social media wasn't there. What has that part of the process been like for you?
It's been It's been a learning process for sure. Like, it's over the course of the band, it's just been a lot of throwing fish at the wall to see if they stick, just to see what do people like. Is this connecting with people? Is this bringing any buzz to us? And I think we're slowly starting to kind of find a groove, and like, in a way, like a narrative to be played out in our social media stuff. We've been just trying to find a balance of portraying ourselves professionally and being able to be taken serious while still not taking away from our actual personalities and kind of our own humor and stuff. So it's been a balancing act, but we're starting to step into a groove to it, and we're starting to be more proactive in planning things more. So that's definitely been helpful.
Well, I guess this past year, year and a half, 2 years has been a lot of that, right? Because shows aren't happening for anyone. So everyone's sort of doubling down on that side of things to keep themselves, keep their name in people's minds and their songs in people's minds, and keep something going, some kind of momentum.
Yeah, exactly. Like, something we were trying to do for a while, and we have taken a little bit of a break on while focusing on like musical side of things, is we were uploading a lot of stuff to our YouTube channel.
Okay.
Not even necessarily music related stuff, but funny skits and just funny videos. Just, that's something we want to do more of in the future as well. It's just something that can showcase a little bit more of like the personal side of us, and like just more of our actual personalities rather than just the music. Kind of puts a name and a voice to the music, which is something that we find important.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I think depending on the style of music, some people's music definitely does that. I mean, if you have like a really emotional folk singer or something, they're almost putting that personality side of themselves 100% into the music. They still have to do the other side of things, of course. But I mean, with heavier music, I don't know if that's necessarily, at first listen, people are assuming that the personality of the artist is coming through, or anything personal about them, or they just hear the loud noise, right? They just hear the distortion, and you got to kind of wade through that. So does that, I mean, do you feel like that those elements of your personality come through in the music as well?
I won't speak personally on the lyrics, but I would say that there is definitely two sides of Prinport. There's the side of Prinport in the music, which is very serious and very personal and very emotional. And then there's Prinport when you come to one of our house parties and I'm walking around like a frog trying to lick your feet and stuff. There's two sides, and I don't know if you guys want to weigh in a little bit more on where you're coming from lyric wise, but
well, I know that everything in Prinport for me is very personal. Like, I don't really write outside issues. Like, it's all just kind of focused on like reflection and like this like kind of cycle of like just kind of fucking yourself over, if that makes sense. And at least that's what I was writing for lyrically on this album.
Okay.
Yeah, but musically, I'm just trying to do as much as I can to like separate our music from anything else in the scene. And it's very much a conscious effort that like we want to be like just Prinport and not defined by like genres.
Yeah.
That's
Which, I mean, we just kind of talked about a few minutes ago too. Yeah, it's that idea of you being a unique entity.
Yeah, I try to portray that through like the way I write.
Well, as someone who previously described himself as introverted, I mean, does being able to kind of express some of that emotional stuff in these songs, does that like cathartic for you? The opportunity to get things out?
Absolutely, yeah. Like it's just like when it's angry, like, you know, I felt that. And then like just even with the effects I use, like I just like I don't know, I always want my music to sound kind of ugly.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, that's a very Winnipeg thing, I think. It's something ugly music that has something deeper to it, below the surface. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to weigh in on?
For me, lyrics are purely selfish, just pretty much like therapy, because I guess, as you said, like there's nothing greater than being able to scream your feelings out into anyone, and
For sure.
so it's just purely therapeutic. Yeah.
How do you deal with that when you haven't been able to play shows in years?
It was tough.
Practice a lot, drink a lot, unhealthy coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
I would say even for me, like I don't write the lyrics and I just play the drums, probably the least emotional of all the instruments.
Well, there's a
Totally.
physical emotionality to it though, right? I mean, you beat the
But
shit out of
yeah,
it.
definitely something that sucked for me was I am an extrovert and I love being the center of attention and I love performing. So that was definitely something I missed. I love just performing for people. I love getting a crowd going. I love, especially with drums, like being able to control people's moods and their energies. I think that's something that's very important on drums. Like
Yeah.
you're the one that gets the booty shaken. So I miss being able to get up on stage and do that. So it's really cool that that's kind of finally starting to open back up. And I think we're all very thankful that we can have that release again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a lot pent up.
It
Was very pent up.
It is different doing it to like a crowd of people as per just like
In your room.
Oh yeah.
It's-
Well, and I think audiences are waiting for that too. I mean, the audience have that pent up aggression, not aggression, but energy as well, right? That they want to kind of let loose at a show too.
Yeah, and our most recent show, our first show back, I would say like probably some of the best crowd energy we've seen.
I don't think
like
it was the most consistent.
nobody
crowd
slowed
energy.
nobody slowed down. We were playing slow parts and people were stage diving. Like it was definitely nice to see. It felt very good.
Yeah, that's cool. What's the best way for people hearing this who maybe they haven't heard you before, this is their first time kind of being introduced to your music? Where can they find you online? What's the best option to hear your stuff and then also find out about, upcoming shows and things like that?
So if you type in Prinport on any platform, we're the only thing that comes up. So
Pretty easy.
YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Music, Google, Bandcamp, anything. We're there. I would say if you want a good taste of what we're about, check out the YouTube channel.
Okay.
We have all of our singles have music videos on there, as well as like we were discussing earlier, some of the more goofy content to kind of get a little bit of an idea of who we are.
Yeah.
And then if you just want to listen, streaming choice.
Spotify.
Streaming choice.
Streaming choice. Yeah.
Streaming
Spotify.
choice. Yeah. And then we do have an Instagram. That's probably where we're most active online. We have 2022 plans of trying to get a TikTok, but we're all we're not all very old, but we're all very old.
Yeah.
We don't get it, but we're gonna be on there making just the worst shit you've ever seen. So
You know what? I made one during the pandemic. I assume I'm older than you, like I'm almost 40, and I made a TikTok, and like I have no idea what the hell I'm doing with it either. But it's a thing.
it's a thing. It's there.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing with it, but it is a thing. Yeah.
It is definitely something.
Yeah. That's a good
So-
goal though, right? To get on
Figure out
Get
20,
on the young guy thing.
yeah, 2022. Watch out for that Prinport TikTok. We're gonna be doing hot, spicy memes.
Right on.